First of all, thank you for the spot. And also, let's give some love back to this awesome staff that has made this the warmest of welcomes I could think of. So let's get down to reversing some video surveillance equipment. I work at Tarlogic. I'm a researcher. Here you have some of my contact information, but please, if you see me around, just approach me. I will happily answer any question you have. So part of my job during this research and doing this research thing is to transfer some knowledge to my colleagues in other departments. And from time to time, we do some internal exercises and some trainings. This was supposed to be a really easy training that turned into something. And the idea was to have someone bring some devices and do a black box exercise from the hardware security point of view with the primary objective of just obtaining a firmware. Yeah? The devices were these two Dahua video recording units. They get the feed from multiple cameras, and then well, they have very similar specifications, so we will look into one of them, but research applies to both of them. Some have a little bit more detection capabilities for image recognition and things, but mostly they're pretty similar. And the thing is that when you give a tinkering guy one of these, the first thing they do is to tear it down. There's a big gap there for a hard disk drive to store video information and a small PCB. This small PCB has some back connectors for peripherals, a screen, a mouse, and a SATA connector for this hard disk drive. But in this same PCB, you can find a lot of ports that are not supposed to be used by the user. So as part of the training, we used some logic analyzers and we uncovered an UART connector and some debugging connectors that also have UART replicated there. So because this is an easy way to go forward, why not try it? We booted the device, and the UART just gave us some information about it was running a fairly ancient U-boot version and a fairly ancient kernel. There was some information about some non-standard text about some secure checking the device was doing. We did not expect anything very fancy from this, so we were fairly surprised. But the thing is that we were expecting bottom-based level security, and we did not find that. After that last starting kernel message, nothing there. We would expect a shell and then dump the firmware, but no luck, so congrats on the manufacturer. In between this booting process, there's this message about, oh, if you hit any key, you can stop auto-booting and then maybe enter the bootloader, but I did not guess the key. So what I did is I ensembled this Python package that uses PySerial to connect to the serial device, and this pexpect package from Python. So you can await some text, then send 100 repetitions of any character, and then just expect some text to know if you have entered the bootloader or not. It's just there for reference if it's useful for anyone. But the thing is that using this and iterating over the ASCII characters, I found out that the character was a simple asterisk. So after that, we entered the bootloader, and as always, if you don't know what to do, ask for help. And a list of commands came out. Some of them were, fairly interesting, and maybe we could dump the firmware using this, but nope. Some of them gave a little bit of output, not much, but mostly the interesting commands did not do anything. This is really not the standard, so things were getting fairly interesting because this is not common. So we had to take a step back. We did not expect to do this, but it was fairly, educational. So we decided to desolder the flash and use a readily available memory reader and dump the contents of the firmware. yeah, let's have a look at what was inside this memory. So the first thing everyone does is run bingwalk. Of course, hundreds and hundreds of false positives. So what can we do? Again, we take a step back. We plot the entropy. So here you have on the x-axis like the offset of a binary. And I like to think of entropy. This is not fully correct, but I like to think of entropy as something like information density, let's say. So we can see some regions that are very low entropy, which is free space in between partitions of this device. And we are mostly interested in extracting the user space because it's where the manufacturer puts all his services and custom stuff. So looking at this, we came up with the idea of, so the biggest partition should be the one that contains the services and executables that the manufacturer has put there. So this should be the user space. We decided to look into it using an hexadecimal editor, and we found out where this partition started. And using DD, we cut that partition out of the binary. It was like 40 megs or something. Then we used bingwalk as it was intended to be used, and we confirmed that in this partition there was a squash file system. Again, I would recommend to use unsquash and not bingwalk because this gives you full output if the things were extracted okay or not. And in this case, we were lucky. We got something out of it. So, looking at it, there was this tree. Confusingly, there was a kernel and another squashfs file inside. So I looked into it using, sorry. I looked into it using bingwalk again, but false positives or either no results. So this is getting interesting for me. Again, plotting the entropy, I found out that these files were encrypted. Based on the names, this was the kernel and the user space, but no bingwalk results, high entropy. Yeah, this was most likely encrypted. So something must decrypt this to load it and boot. Fortunately, there's only one thing that can go before this, which is the bootloader. So, yeah, let's get down and extract this first part of the file, which is the bootloader. And using the old bingwalk, there was this -y option that will, instead of looking for signature, it will look for valid code. And we can confirm that this was an ARM device and it was little endian. So most likely, if bingwalk is seeing valid instructions, it is not encrypted. Looking back at the information we extracted from the bootlog, this was uboot, it was ARM. Unlike user space binaries, we do not know where this is supposed to be loaded. So first, we launched Ghidra and loaded this binary at 00, and the first thing we found was an interrupt vector table that was supposed to be executed whenever things go wrongly. Fortunately, one of the entries, or more than one of the entries, had some hard-coded absolute jumps, which is fairly common. And from that jumps, knowing that the bootloader should be memory aligned, we got a guess for a load address. We confirmed that this load address was okay because after loading in the proper address and checking for the strings in Ghidra, we found out that the code was using the strings. So we're happy. Let's keep it going. First rule of reverse engineering: do not reverse what's already open source. So because we know this is uboot, first thing first, let's go and find out where the source code is, and let's use the strings. We already knew the hit any key to stop autoboot string, so we tracked that in the source code, we tracked that in Ghidra, and we start to match functions and renaming them. That will make our life easier afterwards. Also, it's a good starting point because we want to know what the commands do, and this is like the point just before the command. Following that, we find that readline function, which is the function responsible for taking our input and then running the command in that last function that should execute the commands we are looking into at the moment. Up until this point, what we have done is use standard types and standard things that are already into Ghidra. But at this point, we want to start using types that are specific to U-boot. And so Ghidra asks us to manually input this information, which is a bit tedious and I'm a bit lazy. So for anyone that's into reversing, I've made this Ghidra plugin that allows you to parse all this information quite easily. So it goes something like, this is the binary that's U-boot. I found this CMD table. I've got the source code, so I can copy it. I can go back to Ghidra, and I can tell Ghidra, I want to create a new type, but I do not want to do it by hand. So I just paste the code. Well, I have to adjust for some if definitions there, but yeah, after that, when I play parse, when I press parse, everything is parsed into Ghidra. And I can use it. So if I apply that type to the memory I was looking into, yeah, I get a definition of a command. We found out the table that holds the commands for U-boot. So we can study all of those commands that we found interesting. First one, it was the xh print environment command. And I found that there was a strange function that is not standard at all, that was checking if the device was locked or in a locked state. This is, not standard at all. This lock checking function checked for an environment variable called dajidali, and it was related to a kaimendaji command that we've seen before. These variable names do not seem very English. Fair enough. Maybe Chinese. Dajidali seems to mean good luck, but, Chinese has this accent and tones thing. I do not know. So maybe it's another thing, but Kaimendaji, may you have good fortune upon opening a door. If anyone has seen the Watchmen film, this is the point where the comedian starts to laugh. Yep. So things are getting serious and interesting. Another thing is that the Kaimendaji function was doing some cryptography thing, and again, I'm really lazy. So I have written this plugin that checks for common cryptography constants, and it tags them for you. So, I found out that they were using MD5. Let's see how they did this thing. So Kaimendaji asks you for a password. It must be 6 characters long, and then it calls a checking function. That checking function converts your input from hexadecimal ASCII to 3 bytes, fairly big password, and again checks the 3 bytes. The check function just gets an environment variable called ID and another environment variable called Ethernet address, and does the MD5 of those 2 strings and shorts in some fancy way and compares whatever you have input. So I wrote this fancy keygen in Python that does this very complex thing that they are checking. This generates valid passwords. There was a slight thing that we could know the MAC address because we can look at the sticker, but the ID, really, we did not know what it had. So looking a bit further, we found this show hello world command that for some reason, it got the ID from the environment, it got the MAC address from the environment, and then it mangled it into something that it would output. So, At this point in the film, the comedian is already dead, but still laughing. So I did the reverse function. We had the pack_src function. I had to generate the opposite function. Here's a sample implementation in Python. It will be published. So yeah, this is just for reference. And here's a POC, a proof of concept. So we stopped the output. We tried to print some environment variables. It seems nothing comes up. So I use the show hello command. I copy the output. I go to the keygen, paste this variable, and it gives me the ID, the MAC, and the password. So I can go back, write kaimendaji, which is the unlocking function. It says show hello, or hello world, sorry. And then if we use XH print environment, it outputs the environment variables. So now what? We were expecting something really easy. This was a little bit more than we expected. So now, while trying the bootloader commands, yeah, we got a print environment variables function. There's some nice environment variables I will talk about now, but there's also this part load function that loads an encrypted partition into memory. I was expecting to be able to dump that decrypted partition using XH print, but for some reason it was not implemented. It was an empty function. So I came out with another way to dump the decrypted partitions. The idea is you do a part load, it decrypts the partition, it puts it in memory, then you get the nandops command. That nandops command allows you to put some memory into NAND back. This time it is already decrypted, and then we can use NAND dump to dump that portion of the memory that was decrypted. So by doing this over free space in the NAND memory, we were able to dump the firmware. And also, if you remember back at the start when we booted the device, there was no output from the kernel or services. We found out that there is this custom DH keyboard environment variable in Ubuntu that if you set to 0, it will output the text from the kernel and the services. But there's another one which is app auto. If you set it to 0, it will not boot the services and it will drop a shell. Again, this is a limited shell, but because you already have the flash, you have means to get an user and go on. There are some not so well documented things like these setemp load modules that disables kernel loading, module loading from the manufacturer, and the chboard open, which I don't know what does this do. This is future research. Timeline for this has been a little bit rough. First, I've contacted Dahua Iberia in 2024. I was redirected to General Dahua Incident Response Team. I tried to contact Mitre after getting radio silence twice. This was in this time where Mitre was a little bit. They were worried about funding. They were dropping, I think, email response. I did not know that, so I tried twice. I tried again Dahua. Third time I contacted Mitre, it was via web form. I got an answer time afterwards. They requested further version information. There was some miscommunication there. I got a lack of response to my emails, sending the information they requested. I then understood that they closed my ticket, and I had to do another attempt to obtain a CVE via Mitre, which this was unexpected. It was, at the beginning of this month. So, I'm sorry, there's no CVE for this at the moment, although we have been trying. We really tried to make a responsible disclosure here, so sorry if, there's some URLs for reference. This is going to be published. I will probably wait. The slides will be uploaded, but I will probably wait a little bit for publishing the advisories. And finally, you have some of the tools I have developed while doing these kind of things and research that may be useful for you if you are into reversing or interacting and tinkering with hardware. Conclusions is that we were expecting something. Usually IoT state-of-the-art is not that fancy. This goes a little bit beyond that what basic IoT looks like. There was partition encryption, software signature verification, a customized bootloader. But as always, due to cost, time, support reasons, boot chain was not properly designed to be secure. Bootloader was not really signed. Authentication in bootloader was not properly designed also, and encryption could be bypassed using tools that were already in the bootloader. So, for me, the idea is that it is nice from time to time to read the brochure of product and trust it. Yeah, but if this is going to be installed in something that you require high security, it is sometimes interesting to go a little bit beyond and look for yourself. So for me, an answer to the who watches the Watchmen question would be that I do not need a police to look over the police. I, from time to time, need to look by myself. So following the Watchmen film, the comedian understood that if everyone gives their security responsibilities to another people, at some point this all becomes a joke. And yeah, given enough time, it always becomes a good enough joke, so it is best to laugh. So thank you very much.